Hello everyone. Today we are going to rebuild a GI model Jon E hand warmer. This one's a 1971, as you can see down in the corner here. Stainless steel model, and we're using the rebuild or reconditioning kit that we sell on eBay, and we'll go through the different we'll go through the rebuild process and a few pointers that we also shared in the other video of doing a standard size Jon E. And these procedures will work with a lot of the other brands of hand warmers that were manufactured in Japan and China and wherever else, but these kits are specifically designed for the Jon E models. You can, if you haven't seen my other video with the standard size, doing the rebuild on that, go ahead and check that one out, because that might have some extra information in there that will not be covered in this one. So these kits, they include a carbon fiber protector fabric there, and what that is for is, so this here one doesn't have the filament in the burner, and it is missing the wick, so doesn't really speed up the process a whole lot, because as we showed in the other video, removing the old filament is real easy, and it's just a matter of pulling the wick out. But then this goes inside as well to help protect these the cotton packing here from getting burned or charred and whatnot there, because a lot of times this ends up all black. Not sure, there's a little bit browning here, but that's normal. That can just be from the fuel and vaporization and stuff, and a little bit of heat maybe, but not sure if somebody went ahead and kind of took the burnt stuff off already. It's hard for me to believe that there wasn't any charring on this, especially with this being a little bit black. But so somebody might have already removed it on this one a little bit, because when if you haven't seen my other video, go ahead and check that out, because we're showing one that is charred a little bit more on the standard model. But if it's charred, as we showed in the other video, just take a screwdriver or a knife, and you can just scrape it lightly and fluff it up, and then use a tweezers or a small needle nose pliers and pull the pieces off. But you don't have to remove a whole lot of this packing. Just take off the top charred stuff, so that way it's less interference for the vaporization process to take place on these. Some people have the misconception, as a lot of people refer to this as the wick. It's not a wick. It's a heating element, which has platinum. The good ones years ago, like the Jon E, had the platinum fibers in it, similar to, because the process works similar to the catalytic converters on your vehicle. So what it's doing is it's the platinum reacts with the vapors coming out of the hand warmer from the lighter fluid that you put in there. So as it heats up your hand warmer, so it's very important for your hand warmer to get nice and hot, so it helps with the vaporization of the fuel, and those vapors will travel up in through the element and reacts with the platinum, and that's how it burns. It's, like I said, it's like the catalytic converter on your car, which does the burning of excess exhaust fumes, so it doesn't have as much pollutants going out the exhaust. So having this cotton all the way up to the top here is not necessary because it is not wicking, nor does this here wick. This wick does not play a part in the element burning the fuel. So it's all based on vaporization. So it's good to have this actually down lower so you're not burning this and charring it and causing it to restrict the vaporization process. So hopefully we got that kind of clear now. And so once you get it all prepped, pull the old wick out if it needs to be removed or replaced, or if it's missing like this one, then okay, you don't have to pull it out. So the cotton needs to be down a bit lower. And the nice thing, one of the nice things about these carbon fibers are is that it's going to get tucked in underneath here, which will keep it down lower, and it'll have that air gap in between the burner and the top of the packing there. So the wick, we're going to put that in first. And yeah, be careful. It is soft, so it'll try and fray a little bit, but I like to come in at an angle a little bit and then twist and try and get it started. Kind of give it a little firm push there, get it started a little, and then take the corner of the screwdriver. And this is a pretty small screwdriver, as you can see, compared to the wick. And then we'll twist and push down, and there it goes. Now it's going in. Now this one did not have a wick in for us to pull out. Sometimes when the wick is already in there and you're pulling it out and you need to put a new one in or put the old one back in, a lot of times you can snake this right down in the same track. But this one's struggling there a bit, so with that, you just go ahead and get your screwdriver in and get in behind the packing, and you can pull the packing, pry it over a little bit, and then continue to push the wick down in. And if you need, you can kind of pinch the wick between the screwdriver and the side inside there, and then push it down that way as well. So if you're accurate enough to pinch it, don't go overly too far. So then once I get it down to about the height of the top rim here where the burner goes on, I like to hold it, get it settled into place down there, and then start working your way out, kind of pushing the cotton packing back in against the wick, and then it'll hold it in place there. But and that's it. So we got the wick at about the height of the rim here. So that's where I like to start it. You can always adjust them later. You can pull them up if you have to, but that's usually a good spot to have them. And then we take the carbon fiber from the kit, which these are laser cut. As you can see, it is cut for the shape of the GI model here. And we do offer kits for the standard models, as what we demonstrated in the other video, which is a smaller size carbon fiber, obviously, a little bit smaller burner filament. So, and it is cut out for the wick as well, just like the standard models. So as you can see. So what I like to do, I get it kind of laid on there the way it's supposed to be, and then I pinch the whole thing. I put pressure down on the carbon fiber on one end of the rim here, and then I take the screwdriver and I kind of pull back and down with the fiber, get it started in there, get the end tucked down, and then kind of work the end with the edges in there a little bit. And then we'll turn around the other way, and we'll do the same thing. Get the screwdriver up here near the edge here, and then pull back a little bit as we're going down. So then that way, because otherwise if you just try and push in, it's going to hold stronger up here because it's trying to go around this top ridge. So then if you just push straight down, it's going to pull it away from this side more than pulling it down over this edge here. So that's why I say pull back and down. So that way you're not interfering with what you already did here. Pull it back and down, get the end down in here, and then start tucking it in toward the end, and then tuck the edges. And then you can look where the slot is in the fiber. It might be hard to see in the camera here. And you get that line, that slot in the carbon fiber lined up with the wick. And I think we got it. Check that. And that's that. So now as you look, the carbon fiber is down at basically the level of this. So it's holding it away from the burner. So I'd say you got a good 1/4 inch there of space. And then the reason being because when we get this all assembled, you want that burner or the filament sitting right there on top of that opening. Because otherwise, which happens especially with the GI models because they are quite a bit taller, the factory units, a lot of times, even new, they had them pinched way up toward the top. And that was one of the instances with these hand warmers, even with the new ones that are being offered out there by other companies. If it's way up toward the top, and if you have a big gap where you can literally see right through underneath the burner down to the packing down there, well, as the fumes are evaporating, a lot of them are going to be escaping out the sides. A lot of the fumes are going to be escaping without even being burned. So you're going to be losing heat. You're going to be losing a lot of heat. So that's why when you assemble all this, you want this heating element sitting right on top of there, which is why you want an air gap here to prevent charring of the cotton fiber. And then that's where this carbon fiber plays a hand in protecting it and help keeping it down at that level. So we're going to go ahead and get this. Now these here, when you get them, this is just like painter's tape wrapped around here. Do not remove the tape. It's there to keep the ends from fraying because this is a metal woven tube. Unlike the originals or other ones out there that they have like a fiberglass, a woven fiberglass tube, which basically acts kind of like an insulator, which is holding back some of your heat. It's taking away some of your heat. So this here is metal. There's a metal spring in there with fibers, with the fiber embedded with platinum particles. And that's where you're going to get your heat when the fumes are coming up through there. So do not pull this out of the outer sleeve. You will most likely damage it. You'll lose carbon fibers because they're just sitting in there loosely. They're not glued in there, or not carbon fibers. The platinum fibers rather. Sorry. And that's where a lot of people will complain with their heating, with their hand warmers not heating properly as well. So you have the factor with this being up too high and a lot of fumes are escaping, so it's not going to heat as well. The other thing too is if people drop the hand warmer, or if they're removing this and they drop it, every time you drop it, those platinum fibers that are in there, even in the original burner filaments, they'll be getting knocked loose and they'll be falling out, and you'll be losing that capability because you're losing the platinum, which is needed there for the chemical reaction with the fumes to be burning. So if you're having issues with your hand warmer not heating properly, you're going to want to check those factors there. That gap, and your burner might have been dropped too many times. You know, if it's 30, 40 years old, 50 years old in some cases, it's a very good chance that it's time for a new burner. Very good chance, but unless it's a new old stock unit. But and the nice thing also with the metal braided tube here, so not only does it protect all that fiber that's in there with the platinum, but then it's also, this allows the fumes and air mixture to be getting up in through here. The pores are bigger than in the fiberglass stuff, so it's allowing better flow. And as everything's heating up, this is metal, so metal likes to conduct the heat. It's heating up as well. So you got the spring, you got the metal woven tube, and then you got this here, which is metal. So everything is working together to heat everything up to get a nice, steady, consistent heat, which in turn has to heat everything else up. So when this is nice and hot, it's evaporating the fumes. The hotter it's getting, the more evaporation is taking place. So you're going to have a nice hot hand warmer to keep you warm on them cold days. So let's go ahead and get this in there. So this style of burner, if you don't have these tabs sticking in, these are made to be friction fit. So you can see it's a little bit longer. So you just go in and compress the spring and push it up in there. But since it's got the tabs, we're going to use them. These tabs are pretty straight. They're sticking out pretty straight already. If you can see them in there. Sometimes they have them bent way up, pinching the original heating element that goes in there. But in this case, these here are pretty straight, so we're going to leave them. But if they were bent up, we'd want to go in there and come in with the pliers like this, small needle nose, and then grab a hold of it and bend it up a little bit. So that way, you want them basically trying to shoot straight across from one another, have them coming straight in. Because then we're going to center our spring on those tabs, since we have them tabs there, and then that will help ensure that the element stays in there if you do happen to drop the burner at some time. Like if you're using it and you come home and it's still burning and you want to go to remove the burner using gloves and or a hot mitt or whatever you want to use to remove it without burning yourself. So that way, in case you drop it, it'll help keep that in place. And I will say, use gloves, use a breathing mask or a respirator of some sort, and gloves. But me doing a couple of videos on this stuff, I'm not wearing a respirator because I need to be able to speak into the microphone here, and gloves are going to be blocking views too much, and so on and so on. So you want to use your eye protection, a respirator, and gloves, because you don't know what was all used in the previous ones. I mean, you got chemicals with fuel and whatever they used to go ahead and make the original stuff. You know, back in the good old days, a lot of things used asbestos. So you don't want to be breathing all that stuff, and you don't necessarily want to be breathing the stuff from the new stuff either. You know, just to be safe, it's better to have all your protective gear. So we're going to go ahead and take this. We're going to center the spring on one of the tabs sticking out on the one side. Then we're going to take the screwdriver and we're going to go across both sides of the spring, and we're going to start compressing it. And we're going to hold the burner housing really good. We'll start compressing the spring, and then we're going to try and take it down over the other tab. Now we should be in there. And if this mesh, the woven tubing here, braided tubing, it'll get crunched on the ends a little bit. That's not going to be a problem. It's not going to be an issue. And when I do that, so now I'm centered on those tabs. So it's got however much, you know, the diameter of that spring in there, it's got that much play and movement in there and stuff. But I'm going to take it, I'm going to push it down. Doesn't have to be all the way down to the bottom, but I'm going to push it down a ways. And that way, when I seat it on top of the hand warmer, you'll see it get pushed up a little bit here. There, just pushed up. And as you can see, there's no air gaps. And it pushed up because it's seated down against the opening here. So once you do it and you go ahead and use it, unless you drop it, knock it out adjustment, you never have to mess with it. Just leave it sit where it's at when you use it from time to time. It doesn't matter. You don't have to push it down every time when you go to seat it. So that's it for that unit. And I will say, never, never, ever, and I mean never, pour fuel on your heating element. I've seen videos out there with people doing that. That's a great way to damage your heating element. Never do that, because you are putting that chemical, it's going to interfere with your platinum fibers in there. It can wash the platinum fibers out, and you need them there to chemically react with the fumes and the oxygen to burn. So you never pour your fluid on the burner. Fluid goes in here and only in here. Never grab these things when they're hot with your bare hands. Always be using gloves. Always want to have precautions set up for when you're putting these things in use. And the other thing I will say too is, when you have this burning, it gets nice and hot. You put it in your pouch. So when you put it in the pouch, it's starting to restrict airflow. You cinch it shut, it's restricting even more airflow. When you go to put it in your pocket, it's restricting even more airflow, because now your pocket's wrapped around here. And if you put your hand in there with a glove on and so forth, you're restricting even more airflow. So keep that in mind. If your burner was nice and hot before you put it in, and then 30 minutes later it doesn't seem like it's producing heat, it's not the burner generally that's having an issue. It's you're not letting it get enough oxygen. So sometimes if it's cooling off in a pocket with a glove on and stuff, you may have to open this up. You know, take it out of your pocket, open it up, and hold it out there for a minute or two, and let it start getting some oxygen and heating up again, and then put it back in your pocket. If you feel safe about doing so, you can put it in your pocket by leaving this open up as well. So that way you can keep getting some oxygen in there. Or take your gloves off and put your hand in your pocket without the glove on, which that's the way I usually use them anyway, because it doesn't take as much heat you're not trying to get the heat through your glove. And the other thing too is, when you're using any type of hand warmer like this, because it relies on oxygen to be heating, do not grab around the whole thing, especially on the top half. Don't cover everything up, because this is where all these holes, this is where it needs to get its oxygen coming in to cause it to continue to burn. So if you go ahead and you wrap your hand around it, you're restricting even more airflow. So if it's in the bag, you got it cinched up, you wrap your hand around it, it pretty much isn't going to heat. So keep that in mind. If you're going to be using these, hold it down below the holes. So if you got it in your bag, hold down toward the, you can see where it's at. This is where all the holes are. You want to keep your hand down toward the bottom. So you don't want to be blocking any more airflow than you have to be. So we got that all set up. Pretty much good to go. Nice professional rebuild kit. All installed, ready to go. And we're going to go ahead and put some fuel in this. Take it through the steps. Now I use Coleman white gas. Some people say, oh, that's too explosive, it's too dangerous. Well, do the research. Do your research on what I'm telling you here as well. I mean, everyone has to do their research. But most lighter fluids out there, which is recommended for these, and if you look in the owner's manual, the original owner's manual of the Jon E hand warmers, it says to use, which you can't get the Jon E lighter fluid anymore. So that's where you can use other types of lighter fluid, but you want purify as pure fuel as you can get. You do not use kerosene. Put kerosene in there, you just damage everything, and you really should be pulling all the cotton out and replacing it and everything then. Kerosene is not a good thing because it's not a wicking motion. You're not wicking the stuff up, so you got to have the good white fuel like lighter fluid and whatnot, naphtha and stuff like that. So naphtha is basically Coleman white fuel as well, so or white gas. So if you look at the flash points between them, the vast majority of the lighter fluids out there that are available are the same flash point as Coleman fuel. I believe it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's got the same flash point. So, but do your research on it so you can feel comfortable on your own. Never trust everything you see in videos, but people do make mistakes. So we're going to go and put some fuel in this so we can give her a try. I'm going to get my rag under here. It never fails. I got a kit laying there from a standard model. These are awesome hand warmers. I've used several different kinds over the years. I really do like the Jon E brand. They've been around since 1948. I have been using them for 42 years as of this recording. And I have been using the other competitor brands for almost as long. I'm going to make sure we wipe off any excess. No matter if you think you spilled any or not, it's always good to wipe it down anyway, because you just never know. And you want to do this in a safe environment. I don't advise doing it over a vinyl tablecloth like I'm doing here. And it's good to do it out in a garage or outside. I will mention as well the tape around the ends here. I think I forgot to mention, you do not remove that, but they can stay on there after you use them a while. After you use a hand warmer a while and it gets so hot and everything, that tape is gonna most likely burn off anyway. So, and you don't have to worry about it. Can't even really see it in there unless you're really looking for it, and you can't see from the bottom when it's on there. But so we got the fuel in there. We'll close this up. Get this out of the way. Give us a clean work operating area here. So just a real quick note, this is the standard size, for the standard size hand warmer, so you can see the difference in size. And the standard size burner is a little bit smaller, which it's hard to tell here, but it's kind of hard to tell after putting it in there, but it is smaller. But anyway, get the burner on there. And then when I heat this up, when I heat up the burner, I like to heat up here as well, since I'm using, and you can do it with a Zippo or whatnot if you have to. I mean, we're not using matches hardly any time now. But and that's what the wick here is for easier lighting. They call it self-lighting, but you still have to light the wick. So call it what you will, but they advertise it as self-lighting, but you still have to light the wick to light the burner anyway. But so I like to heat up the element, and then I like to heat this metal up a little bit, because it speeds up the process for getting that evaporation going faster and heating up the hand warmer faster. So we'll go ahead and they say when you're using these Jon E's, oh, I might be getting low on fluid on this maybe, but when you're lighting these Jon E's with the wicks, you can light the wick, and then they say to let it burn for, I believe it's about a minute, but I don't usually use the wick. I don't know if you can see that, but it's starting to turn the reddish orange inside there. So if you want to use the wick, there it goes, and then you can just tip it a little bit. And that's how they do it. So that, like back in the day when they were doing this, they didn't have these here fancy torch lighters and stuff. They had the Zippos, but otherwise you could just strike a match, hit the wick with the match, and then let this burn for about a minute. And hasn't been a minute, but I was helping it out with the torch lighter. So then, like I said, I like to go ahead. You don't have to do this. It's just one of those things that I do, because it heats up pretty fast using the torch lighter here. It's already evaporating. You saw how the fumes were igniting coming up out of there already. So it's heating up. Don't worry about the metal discoloration. That's normal. Metal likes to discolor when it gets hot like that. So that doesn't hurt anything. So we're going to go ahead and put this on. She's lit. And I will say, never, never, ever, never, ever attended. If you're done using it, you need to put it out. Don't forget it in your coat pocket. Don't be using it outside and you got it in your coat pocket and then you go hang your jacket in the closet with this thing ignited. Don't ever do anything of that sort. There's responsibility with these devices. It's not an open flame, but they do get hot. Otherwise, it'd defeat the purpose of being called a hand warmer. So it doesn't matter if you're just going to leave it for 10 minutes unattended. Put it out. You want to put it out, you pop the top off. I can do this yet because it's not extremely hot yet because we just lit it. But you use gloves, or me here, I use the rags and stuff like that periodically when I'm doing this stuff, and pull it off, set it off aside, not on a vinyl cover or anything burnable. Put it on something metal, preferably metal tin or metal table, cabinet, whatever. Set it off to the side and let it cool down. Once everything is cool, it doesn't take that long, but once it's all cooled down, you can put the burner back on. Even if there's fuel in here, it's not going to reignite until you go ahead and heat that thing up again. So it's giving off heat. Get this back on there and give that a moment. I'm not sure what else I am forgetting. Oh, I did forget one thing, but this here This has been dry for a long time. I will mention that when you're putting fuel in, you know, when operating these things, you want to abide by the manufacturer's owner's manual. It's starting to get hot. So follow the directions as far as filling it with fuel, igniting it, using it, putting it out, being finished in storage. Follow the manuals. Yeah, she's getting hot. But like I demonstrated in the other video, which I failed to do here because I didn't put as much fuel in here as what it can take. I just wanted to put enough in here to go ahead and be testing it. But when you fill these up all the way, they'll last for at least 24 hours, especially these GIs. Back in the day when they first came out with the GI model, I think they advertised them as 24, or I mean, for 2 days. They'll burn for 2 days on one filling. Whether that's true or not, you can see, I can see it. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but there's an orange glow inside there. But when you fill them, you're supposed to, before you put the burner back on, you're supposed to turn them upside down and shake them. Shake it out and until there's hardly anything for droplets coming out, because you don't want it just running out, because if you go ahead and you ignite this and then you go ahead and tip it on its side or upside down by chance in your pocket, you don't want fuel running out in your pocket and stuff. So this is cool enough now to touch. But he's heating up. All right, we'll give that a moment. Got an El Cheapo meat thermometer here. Don't have the big fancy digital unit with the probes, but this one seems to work. So when you ignite them, I believe the Jon E manual, operator's manual booklet that came with these things originally, you can use the wick for the ones with the wick. Let that wick burn for like a minute, I believe it was, I said. Blow it out, put the cover on, and then I believe they say let this sit for like 5 minutes. I usually like to leave them sit for a minimum of 5 minutes. Generally, I like to go about 10 minutes. I like to get them good and hot before I put them in the bag. But I believe the Jon E directions say 5 minutes. But then you definitely want to use a glove or rag or mitt or something to pick it, because it's going to be very hot at that time, because this is all open air flowing right now. So it heats up real nice when it's got full access to oxygen. So you don't want to just grab it with your hand and put it in the bag, because you will get burned. So yeah, she's getting nice and hot there. Turn this on. We'll go here on the side. The top will most generally be hotter, with obviously with the heat rising up there. So we'll do it on the side right here and see what we end up with. Getting the camera view. So we're up to, we were at 70 something degrees, and now we're up to 90, 95, 96, 100, 105, 112, 116, 120. I think you're able to see that in the camera. It's hard with the light, the way it reflects. I got to get a better grip on this thing here quick. There. Get back on there. So we're at 140. Now this thing hasn't even been burning for 5 minutes. What's it been? Maybe a couple, 3 minutes. There again, I didn't look at the clock to time it, but we're at 150 already. $155. 160. 165. 170. And I will mention too, the platinum filament that's in these rebuild kits are made in the USA. And those are stainless steel springs that are in there. So very high quality kits. Laser cut carbon fibers, original style wicks. Very high quality kits. Made to fit very nicely. So it slowed down here at 175. It just went to 176, 177. It did slow down a little bit, 178. So as you can see, these kits do work. I'm not a magician here. 177. Oops. 176. So it looks like it's 177. So it looks like it's holding somewhere in the area of 176, 178, which is very good because, like I said, yeah, the heat's starting to travel down now. Yeah, that's hot. So as it continues to burn, it's going to keep moving the heat down. This whole thing's going to get hot, and that's where, when you have it in your pocket, and you put it in the baggie here, and you got it in your pocket, you can grip just around the bottom. You don't have to be gripping the whole thing, because this is going to be putting off quite a bit of heat. So, and it's going to put off more heat as long as you're not blocking the holes where it needs to get the oxygen. So we'll put this in the pouch. So, and that's going to be a nice warm. So this here insulates, obviously, otherwise you ain't going to be able to have your hands on it. So it's good that we're up to that temperature, because one, it's going to drop because you're restricting airflow just by putting it in the pouch. And once you go ahead and close this up, it's going to restrict airflow even more. So if it starts getting too cool, make sure you open that up. Be careful when you're using just bare hands, no gloves, to not put your fingers down in there too far and burn the tips of them on the top of the warmer. So, but yeah, she's nice and toasty right now. And it's traveling down good. The holes are, you know, where's the there's the first hole, I think, right here. So as long as you're halfway down, you're doing good. But so you have to just play with them, get the feel of it. You know, depending on the type of jacket you're wearing, how deep your pockets are, or if you're wearing gloves or mittens, you know, everything plays a factor in it. But it all boils down mainly to having the fuel in there and having a proper burner set up. So go through, you know, if nothing else, you know, I'm not saying you have to buy these rebuild kits, but so if nothing else, at least you can hopefully have learned some information here in these videos to understand how they work and how to get the best efficiency out of your hand warmer, even with the original or whatever heating element that you have in it currently at the time. So you want to close that air gap below the burner and make sure all them fumes are going up through the burner. And as I said, if you know you dropped it a few times, well, that can be playing a factor too, because it might have knocked a lot of the platinum fibers loose inside that burner, and you're due for a new burner anyway. But yeah, it's getting nice and warm. So it's real good for especially for a day like today. You know, we got 0-degree temperatures outside right now, and it's good to have one or two of these. I generally run with one or two of these in all of my vehicles, and then I'll have a bottle or a can of fuel with me to get a few hours worth of burns out of each one of them, because you never know when you might need something to keep warm. And these here throw good heat if you got them working properly, so you're not having to run the vehicle if necessary, if you go off in a ditch or get stuck or whatnot. So, but anyway, I think that's enough rambling. You got the point across, and go ahead and, so we're at 73 on the thermometer right now. We'll go ahead and put it on here real quick again. See what we get after having it in the bag there for a bit. We're up to 107. Is it showing up in the camera there? I think it is. 123. 132. 140. 147. 150. It's slowing down a little bit, but I just want to test it here and show you the temperature does drop when you start restricting the airflow. So we had it in the pouch, so it was restricting, and it's the climbing, it seems like it's starting to speed up now again. We're up to 160 now because it's getting more oxygen again. So keep that in mind when you're using them and you have them in your pockets. So a lot of times that's where the problem lies. They're not getting enough oxygen. So I hope this answers a lot of questions for people and helps individuals out there that may have not owned one of these and may be looking at getting something like this, or even the newer models that are offered by other companies out there. But pretty much they all work the same. Just be cautious of the newer models. A lot of these newer ones that they sell, they're using other metals, I guess you could call it, or whatever. They're using other fibers in the burners because platinum is so expensive. They're trying to get by with cheaper sources, or if they're using platinum, they're using very little and they're mixing it with other types of material to get that burn. And that's another reason why some of the newer ones don't get as hot or heat as nice as these older ones, or like these rebuild kits. So these rebuild kits, especially the standard model that we sell, fits some of these other similar size hand warmers out there. From what we've been told, I don't use them. I stick with my Jon E's now. I'm very comfortable with them after playing with them for 42 years. They don't fail me. But thanks for watching. I'll stop rambling now, and good luck.